My first experience with voice technology was in a dingy public access studio. I was sitting in a tiny little room next to a student, and we were watching a monitor. We also had a microphone, and the next room was a cameraman and a bunch of actors. At the time, I worked for the museum, the Interactive Museum in Washington, D.C., and we had this great idea to create a voice-enabled game, because our mission was to teach people about the First Amendment and journalism. And what better way to take students and put them on the scene of a news event and allow them to ask questions, to find the story, and to fill it. That day was one of our first tests to see if this was any of a good idea. And what we discovered on that day is that this was an engaging experience, that students like digging into the story. I was playing the editor, and I was able to give them instructions and help them learn more about being a journalist. We created an experience that students wanted, and that furthered our mission. The problem was, it was more than 10 years ago, and there was no way that voice was going to be able to make it possible to do everything that we wanted. Fast forward more than 10 years, everything that I dreamed of is now possible. But the same questions remain. Does this further our mission? Does this help our customers learn? Does it serve their needs? Many of us are in product and technology groups. We represent the single greatest investment our companies are making. They count on us to generate the ROI that makes it all possible, that furthers the growth of our companies. And the reason why I know that is that we partnered with Forrester Research, and we surveyed more than 140 product professionals. 84% told us that their work was critical to driving revenue for their business. They also told us a few other things. They said that it was what they're being measured against, what their leadership expects on it, what their help affects their take-home pay. It's to solve customer problems. 74% said they didn't know what those customer problems were, that they had to respond to rapidly changing technology trends, things like voice and AI. 72% said they couldn't keep up, that they had to respond to changing business needs. 64% said they couldn't get the job done. The question is why? We have more tools than we've ever had before. It's never been easier to bring a digital product to market. But we're still struggling, even though we have a clear picture of what we're trying to achieve, of what people are investing us for. What our research indicates is that we are struggling to find the balance between customer need and business need. For so many years, we built to business requirements, things that we thought that business wanted and needed. And we've changed course to focus on what customer needs and customers want, and we're still not necessarily finding the equilibrium between those things. We're swinging from one side to the other. That's where the product mindset comes in. 3Pillar is a product development services company. We spent the last 13 years helping companies build their products, improve their products, figure out what to do next. And so we've seen a lot of things, and we made a whole lot of mistakes. And we think one of the things that guides our thinking and guides our future is something called the product mindset. The mindset piece is really an important part of it. So there's been a lot of research in Stanford and other places into mindset. They've looked at social workers, police officers, prison guards, and discovered that the mindset that you have to the job that you do greatly influences what you create. That when you think about following rules rather than solving problems, then you're not as good of a social worker. If your mindset is about creating value for customers in the business, and everyone shares that mindset, then you make better decisions, you ask different questions, you suggest different trade-offs. If what you're asking of people is compliance and lower escape defects and higher velocity, those are the things you're going to get. And here's the best part of this. What the research has also shown is that mindsets are malleable. They can be coached. They can be shaped. They can help bring your organization together to make better decisions, to think differently about what you're trying to do. What we've also learned over many years is there seem to be these three things that indicate a product will be successful. The product has to be self-funding. So imagine there's a stock of money on the table, and every month a portion of it is going away. There has to be more money coming in to further that development. The reason why so many products fail is they run out of money or support before they can get off the ground. We've got to get off the ground earlier. And when I talk about self-funding, I'm not just talking about hard currency. I'm talking about organizational support, of having that classic elevator moment and said, what are you working on? From the CEO, and you hand them the latest version of your app that's in staging that he can play with. That you have, if you're going to self-fund, then people have to choose your product. They have to choose you because you're solving an important problem, something that they can't do themselves, or that seemed out of reach and frustrating so long ago. And they choose you not just today, or next month, or next year, but they have to continue. And if you're going to continue to be chosen in a world where everything is different and new things come on all the time, you have to never be done. You can never check the box and say, well, we're over with that, and we're moving on. So how do we guide people? How do we help align people from different parts of the organization, product, UX, engineering, sales, marketing, to a single way of thinking, to align all their different methodologies of way of working to one thing? And what we've found over the years is that it comes down to three simple principles to guide thinking. Minimize time to value, solve for need, and excel at change. So let's take a look at each one of those and how they work in real life. Minimize time to value is the first one. Value exists in the hands of your customers. It's not in your staging environment or on your machine or in dev. It's not a journey map on the wall. It's not a sticky note. That's activity. You've generated activity. You haven't generated value. Value can only exist in the hands of your customers. You've got to get it to them and then be able to learn what to do next. And a great example of that is the Common Application. The Common Application helps 10 million students apply to colleges and universities every year. And a couple years ago, they wanted to have their first mobile experience, but they weren't sure what it was supposed to be. Over 35 days, we did testing with 33 students and 6 rounds of prototyping. We discovered that how students manage things, really understanding their college, what the due date was, and what was outstanding. We needed to help them manage the college application process in and amongst everything else they were trying to do. So with that learning and with our testing in place, every single release that we did in the 8 months that we had to build the app was focused on what could we deliver to students soonest, what was going to make the most impact on their day-to-day lives, and help them apply to college. And that served the Common App's mission of access. The next one is that we've got to solve for need. We all know stories of products that were really cool and had great technology, but didn't actually solve a problem, didn't make things easier for anything. And what's a need, you might ask? A need is something that someone feels. They know, they recognize that they have a problem, and that problem causes them pain. It makes it harder to do things every day or every week. It makes it that so they can't do some other things in their lives that they want to do. And they're trying to fix it, but they just can't quite get it together. But because it's so important, they're willing to make an investment. They're willing to take time. They're willing to spend money. They're willing to put themselves out there for a solution to their problem. Intuit has a product called Mint. Some of you may have used it to help with your financial management. And what they noticed was in Mint that people were tagging things in weird ways they didn't quite expect. And for many years, they've had a program called Follow Me Home, where that's exactly what they did. They went into people's homes and went into their businesses and tried to understand how things would work. And so they did. They went into homes and businesses. They tried to figure out what was going on here. What's this unexpected behavior? And what they discovered was that people who participated in the gig economy were using their product in order to tag their expenses, so that come tax time, they could get money back on the expenses they had when they were driving for Lyft or putting their home on Airbnb. The problem was that tool was never built for that. It wasn't quite very good at it. But with that need established and drawing on their expertise in accounting and taxes, they were able to create a product called QuickBooks Self-Employed. Through fast, flexible, focused research, going out and understanding people, they discovered this new entire product that they could bring to the market and new ways to serve their customers and their business. The last one is Excel at Change. Back in the day, I remember being woken up at 2 a.m. on Saturday morning once a month to do a deployment and do user acceptance testing. I don't know how many people do that anymore, because most people have much more evolved tools and practices that allow them to ship way more often. Through a lot of these technologies, deployment, automated testing, development has gotten faster, but people making decisions haven't. It still can be tricky to know, when do we change course? When do we hold course? How do we know when to make that decision or when to make a change? And have we equipped our organization to make that happen? Netflix is probably an example of doing that right and not so great. I don't know if you remember, but a couple years ago, Netflix had both a DVD service and a streaming service, and they split them into two different companies. They called the DVD service Quickster, and with one day, they lost tens of thousands of customers, and it took them years to earn them back. That's the change gone wrong. We've also seen them pivot from delivering DVDs in the mail to being a streaming service, and now generating original content, all the while having to continue to excel at change and know when to hold, when to let go, when to kill something, because sometimes it's really important to kill something. So we put it all together. If we change the way our organizations think, if we change the things that we focus on and that we ask of them, if we bring everybody together around a common set of principles, minimize time to value, solve for need, excel at change, we increase our chances of success. We increase the empowerment and engagement that we're giving to our employees. So, if you're interested in the research that I mentioned with Forrester, or you want to check out the product mindset when it comes out in September, please go to productmindset.com. We also have a couple of the copies of the research here if you want to go in that general direction and talk to those people. Thank you.